today's webinar will be available through the end of the week. And then after that, you have to register again. So pay attention because this information is going to be gold. So the great thing about this topic, about social media audits, is that it's relevant for anyone who's working closely with your company's social strategy. Whether you're starting a new job at a company or preparing a social media strategy for a new client, if you're checking in on your existing social strategy, or you're finding that your team is just working harder than ever, but something's just not working out and you've got kind of flat results on social, an audit is really your first step. So we want to know who you guys are, who's tuning in today. Take a minute to let us know where you stand. Are you brand new to this crazy thing called social media audits? Are you just fine-tuning your social media strategy, or are you an old pro, but you're just always wanting to learn? Welcome, everyone. We're so happy to have you all here. Let's dive in. So, beginning with a very simple question, what the heck is a social media audit? As we say in our blog, also linked below, an audit can be a bit of a scary word, but it's not really that scary at all. In fact, if it's done correctly, it can give you a really clear picture of what content is working, what content is working really well, and what content honestly kind of sucks a bit. It's able to also figure out where your audience really is by looking at all of your social accounts. You might need to nix one or two once you take a look at them, or maybe you need to add another one. An audit will help you figure all of that out. And you'll be able to learn what social tactics drive the real business results, which is what we all want. And last but not least, there's going to be some opportunities to grow on other channels, and this is also what it will uncover. Sounds pretty cool, right? Not scary at all. Okay, so let's dive into the good bits. So the first thing you want to do is track all of your social accounts. But first, again, make sure you grab a free social media audit template. It's linked below and it will help you through this whole process. Okay, so back to tracking all of your social accounts. So before you look at any of your content, you need to make a list of all of your social accounts that are out there. And I mean all of them. Assume that you're not the only one posting to social for your company. There could be old accounts or profiles just floating into the abyss, or other departments could maybe have created their own profiles and you want to uncover all of them. So this does mean rolling up your sleeves, getting a bit dirty. No dirt required though, don't worry. And this includes looking on the web and searching on social media. So plug in your company's name and really see what pops up and then record everything you find. So here's a pro tip for you. Something that I've created for the social team is a master social media accounts spreadsheet. So it lists out all of the social media accounts and includes what the login email is and where the password is being held, like a password protection, like LastPass. If the channel is active or if it's dormant, who the channel owner is, and even like who to include, so who audience it is. And if you're a global company like Hootsuite is, what different market segments are you targeting with that specific social account? So the next thing is really understanding if these accounts are on brand or not. So once you've located all of your social media accounts, this is where the real work begins. But it's the fun part as well. So you're going to need to take a look at each one individually to make sure that it's on brand and also consistent with all of the other channels you have. So what do we mean by on brand and what are we looking for? So this means, is your profile and are your cover images current? Do you have old logos? Have you had a rebrand? Make sure that that is all up to date. Does your profile or your bio text accurately reflect your brand messaging? Again, maybe there are some updates that you need to make there. Are you using the same social handle across all channels? And this one can be challenging because maybe you don't have access or you didn't grab the handle of your company. So make sure that you're trying to get consistency across all your channels. Do the links work? And do they point people in the right direction? This might seem obvious, but sometimes we forget about links that we've updated during a campaign and now they're not relevant. And are there any pinned posts? If so, is it still relevant? It can be really challenging when you're sending out campaign content or a new blog post, and then you go on to other things on your to-do list, and you've forgotten to unpin the post from the campaign a month ago. Make sure that doesn't happen. And also, is the account verified? And if not, should it be? Is that something that you want to have your accounts be verified for? So while on each account, you will also pull out the top 3 performing posts and record the key metrics for each in your template. You downloaded that, right? Just checking. Okay, good. You can do this by looking at each platform's analytics and see them all in one place within Hootsuite's analytics tool. So now you look for patterns. Do you see more results from video or text-only posts, maybe linkless posts? Record all of it down in the template. Once you have individual posts, look at the overall account. Do you have a goal for that channel? And if not, now is the time to do so. You don't know what the strategy is if you don't know where you're going. And once you've set the objectives for the channel, it will be way easier to understand the social metrics you want to track. Is it brand awareness that you're after? If it is, then you want to make sure that you're tracking growth, reach, engagement, social sentiment as well. But if it's more like acquisition, you want to measure link clicks, leads. So really be clear about what the objective is for that social channel. And then the social metrics will be easier to match. And it's important to also set time for pulling those results. So whether you book it weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, over time you'll really start to see those trends and be able to develop a really clear social strategy. So another pro tip for you, this is where you decide what content is really working the best. It'll be beneficial to also record your 3 worst performing pieces of content to prepare. And then you analyze, so what worked and why? Was it the copy that didn't work, or was it the design that worked? And do the same for your top performing content. This will help you replicate the magic or also ditch the things that just aren't working. So now we have all of your accounts. We know they're all on brand. We know the content that's working. You've ditched the content that isn't working. So now it's time to really understand and get to know your audience. Get them excited. And of course, to do this, you need to really know who your audience is. So study your audience to learn and understand their demographics and the relationship with social. Understand your audience and the interests will help you identify the channels that you should be on. And as one of my former bosses used to say, fish where the fish are biting. You can learn about all the demographics by using each network's built-in analytics, or you can use also Hootsuite Insights. And we also have demographics blog posts for each major network on the Hootsuite blog, so I recommend bookmarking those as well. So next is really about standardizing channel ownership. This might sound boring, but it is a very important part of a social media audit. Remember the master social media account spreadsheet I was talking about earlier? Well, if you've done it correctly, this will be your single source of truth to help you avoid doing the random Google searches that you just did for your brand ever again. Okay, that was slightly dramatic. But I'm serious, it's going to be your single source of truth that you go to. And assigning a channel owner is really the key to ensuring a successful channel. Who's responsible for creating the content? Who's responsible for scheduling and publishing? What about engaging with your audience? What about listening for key conversations about your brand or measuring the success of your social strategy? These all need a key owner. And it might be one person, but if it's not, you'll want to establish it. Another reason why it's super important to have an owner is for crisis communications and also emergency management. So I'm talking about when you need to pause your channels immediately because of internal or external factors, or if your brand needs to release a statement on your social channels, or if there's suspicious activity or whatever it is, you want to know who the owner is of that channel so you can get in touch with them immediately. All of this becomes so much easier when there is a clear owner. All right, so after all of that, it's finally decision time. At this point, you have a really good grasp on what content is performing well, on which channels, to what audience, and you've identified who the owner is or if there's gaps in ownership. The question now becomes, what do you need to cut and what do you need to grow potentially? So let's talk about when to tweak. With the channels that have clear goals and objectives, you know it's the target audience and your audience is actually on that network, then it's really all about testing your content to determine what key content buckets are working, and eventually you come up with your secret sauce. Once you've determined that and you're measuring your success, then the channel is a keeper. But then also, what about the channels that you've identified that are kind of on the chopping block? So some clear signs for you to watch out that will lead you to understand if that channel really needs to be sunsetted, as we say, are as follows. So if there's an overlapping strategy, and what do I mean by this? So do you have another handle on the same channel or network that does essentially the same thing? There's no key content differentiation, and you're basically just like replicating the work that you're doing. Well, it's time to change it up then, and consider consolidating those channels. Your time is really better spent creating quality content for less channels than just spreading yourself too thin and trying to have more channels, more networks with really the same strategy. Or perhaps when you're auditing, you've uncovered channels that are outdated, off-brand, and unused. That's an obvious one. You should probably shut those down. But a less obvious sign is when there is no clear channel owner. And we were talking about this before. But even when you have an open channel, it has the clear objectives, it's on brand, you've identified what content is working well for the target audience. But if you don't have capacity to take it on and make sure you're creating and publishing content regularly and also engaging with your audience, tracking the results, you might want to consider temporarily putting that channel on hold until it's priority and that there's a clear channel owner. And you can always come back to the channel if it becomes a priority. We've done this at Hootsuite as well. We sunset it, we leave a message, and we change the logo to make people know that it's not an active channel. So if you have determined that a channel that you're that just isn't working for you and your business anymore, you're going to want to do a couple things. So first, create a communications plan to anyone in the business that needs to know that you're closing the social channel. This is very important. If you have customer support staff that are directing messages to the channel, if you have key stakeholders that rely on that channel for key communication, you want to let them know. And then you also want to craft social copy, letting your audience know where they can find you next. So this is a great time to make sure that you're directing all the traffic from that channel that you're sunsetting to the channel that has the solid social strategy. Even if you think that it's not an active audience, still make sure that you're putting out messages and pin a message, letting them know where they can find you, and then you can switch over your logo and change the bio, communicating that this is no longer an active channel and where they should be following you and your brand. And one of the most exciting parts of doing an audit is finding opportunities for new channels. So this is where determining who your target audience is and where they're hanging out will be super important. And another key part of this is watching macro trends that are shifting, that are indicating shifting consumer behavior on social media. So if you're like, okay, Amanda, cool, where do I find that? You're in luck, because we just actually released a report, our Digital in 2021 report, which uncovers essential insights for each of the major networks and digital trends that you'll want to keep an eye on. We also have our 2021 social trends report that's helpful indications as where the kind of overall social media industry is going as well. And my friends, I'm going to have to break this to you softly, but a social media audit is not a one and done thing. At Hootsuite, we do them quarterly to make sure that there's no skeletons hiding in our closet. It's really the best way to make sure that our social accounts are staying on brand, they're producing ROI, and that you're tracking towards your expertly crafted social marketing strategy. And then that's it. So everything you needed to know about doing a social media audit, we covered in this webinar. I hope you learned a ton of information, and make sure to check out that social media audit blog I was referencing throughout the whole thing. While you're auditing the channels, there is a free template inside that's going to be super helpful for you. So I hope you enjoyed the webinar. Okay, bye everyone.